So you consider that the cessation of hostilities is holding in some places but not in others?
I mean, it's our assessment, again, and I'm not,
At what point in the war has every place in the country been under attack simultaneously? I don't understand the notion that you can't attack every place at the same time simultaneously, so you can never have the cessation of hostilities broken ever.
No, that's
by that definition.
No, and nor, Brad, have we ever said that this is a 100%, legitimate ceasefire. I think what we have said is that we saw, could credibly report that there was, a significant cessation of hostilities. I think we talked about 70% reduction in violence in the country. Again, you're right in the sense that you can never have, or we have not had, a full cessation of hostilities, and we've never had that since this came into play. But with that 70% reduction, it allowed Syrians to live more safely, and allowed humanitarian aid to get to some of these places that have been besieged. So, in all, it's been a good thing.
And now, that the violence is back up, do you still consider this? I mean, what point? Does
No. But my point is, I understand your question. I guess
you consider it broken.
I guess my point to Dave was, we're just saying that it's not, it has not broken down all across the country. But that especially we have seen a degradation. I don't know how else to put it, in and around Aleppo, where there has been a sharp increase in violations and in fighting.
But you consider,
but I don't think we're ready to. I don't think we're ready to declare the cessation dead.
Agreement.
Yes.
If the opposition were to make any attacks, and actually it has made attacks,
we would call on
those violations.
We would, yes, and we would call on all sides to show restraint and to abide by the ceasefire or the cessation. And there's obviously, and we've talked about this before, it's up to the task force, and it's also up to the various parties, Russia namely, to exert whatever influence it has on the Syrian regime, just as it is on us and other members of the ISSG who have influence on the opposition, to ask them to abide by the ceasefire. Otherwise, it doesn't hold.
Given that Russia reportedly is involved in some of these attacks by providing air cover and launching airstrikes, who is investigating this reported ceasefire violation? Does that go to the task force of which Russia is co-chairing?
It still goes to the task force, but that task force is made up of all members of the ISSG. There is a process in place.
How do you? What's the process?
I honestly
do you
can't.
Ask them to self-investigate themselves? Is that the process?
I would imagine that's not the case. I think, but again, I don't.
Sure.
Look, Brad, I don't have a window inside. What I understand it to be is that these allegations, credible allegations, are vetted among the various members of the ISSG, and then there's decided that what action will be taken. Okay.
Has the task force to date come up with any certified conclusions about violations and provided adequate response? Has it done anything, essentially? You've talked about it a lot.
No, I understand, and it's a fair question. In terms of whether it has publicly reported or given out a list of, it has not.
Has it done it privately?
It has, I believe, vetted these and then, again, approached the culpable parties, I guess, whether it's the regime or whether it's opposition forces. Again, we've seen the preponderance of these kind of violations on the part of the regime. But that said, what happens is then they are taken, they're go to these various parties, and then they speak to them and try to get them to, again, abide by the cessation of hostilities. We talked about this. Look, this is what it is. I mean,
I just don't understand what the
you can
value
decide
of it is.
tomorrow that if you're a party to this cessation of hostilities, whether you're the regime or the opposition,
Right.
you could decide tomorrow, the cessation be damned, we're going to begin fighting again. Then you clearly are not party to that cessation. It's a self-policing in that sense.
But it seems like they're doing that anyhow, but they're just not saying that. So
I understand your point.
You're left saying, well, we think you're abiding by, except in the cases you're not,
I guess,
and we can't do anything.
I guess, Brad, how I would put it is, we're not ready to declare this thing dead. We believe it is outside of Aleppo, largely holding. We acknowledge that within Aleppo and around Aleppo, that there have been multiple or ongoing instances or incidents that frankly cause us grave concern. That's why we're trying to coordinate with Russia. That's why we're trying to coordinate with other members of the ISSG, and that's why we're trying to convey to the parties involved that they need to back off. Please, sir.
I was looking to change topics, unless somebody wants to
Happily.
follow up on this.
Yeah, sure. Unless it's a difficult one, then I don't want to. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, in Bangladesh,